Our first session is online executive education, a revenue generator. So with Caroline Williams, who is the director of the Open Executive Education at the Saïd Business School, University of Oxford. Under her leadership, they've been ranked second in the world for quality of education by the Financial Times, earning first place in the UK for 6 consecutive years. I'm delighted to hand over to Caroline Williams for what I know is going to be a very interesting session.
Thanks very much, Vistaf, and it's lovely to be here with you all, just talking you through some of the adventures that we've had at Saïd Business School this past year and beyond as we've been building our online campus. So just to reflect on the session title for a moment, the session title, of course, is a revenue generator. And that's something that is very critical to the role that I play. Of course, naturally, I'm responsible for the financial income of the open executive education area, for the performance, for the budgets, and so on and so forth. But if I'm going to confess to you here today, it's not necessarily the part of the role that sort of gets me out of bed at the beginning of the day and sort of eases me into the work day. The part of the role that gets me really excited, and I know certainly my team as well, is very much the things around curiosity. So can we do better in what we currently do for our executive education area? What about pedagogical innovation? You know, how can we innovate? How can we make development experiences better and more seamless for participants who are going from various different elements of the campus, so from the online to the on-campus to the virtual, and also thinking about that peer-to-peer connection that we have and how that social construction of new knowledge can be developed further in the work that we do. So I'm looking forward to talking with you implicitly about how the performance, obviously, of the on-campus portfolio can be a revenue generator. But I just wanted you to come through this presentation with me with some lenses around the quality of the experiences, of course, the participant-centric way we're approaching this, and some of the pedagogical innovations that we are excited about that have come through simply by having an online campus. So the first slide that we have here is very much bringing us back to the point of what we exist to do, probably for the whole sector, but of course resonated within the mission statement of University of Oxford. And very much the idea of the online campus was, how can we increase access to our faculty and the research insights that they bring within their programs to many more people around the world? How can we do that with the amount of time that the faculty have, which is often very pressured? And how can we ensure that we're not burning them out as we're accelerating their accessibility as we move forwards? So we're just reflecting back on the last year. We've had a 5-year journey. So myself, a very talented team, and our wonderful ed techs have managed to build a multi-million-pound portfolio for Saïd Business School, particularly focused on the online campus. But the last year, probably for many of us, has been one of very mixed outcomes. So the very first kind of part of the year was looking very strong. Our on-campus programs were performing well. We had a lot of applications. The pipelines were very healthy. And then, of course, the pandemic leapt into the frame, and that area of the business began free falling pretty much for the whole sector. On the other side of the business, we had 50% less programs than we have now. We had about 11 programs in our online portfolio. And after initial hiatus of stabilization, I guess globally, of people just coming back online with regards to thinking about stabilizing both their own personal circumstances, but also their professional circumstances, we noticed that the online portfolio, probably like many of you who have an online portfolio, was very resilient to the market conditions that we were seeing at that time. And what was particularly interesting about that portfolio was that there was a lot of interest in some of the cutting edge and disruptive programs that we'd already put into that portfolio. So blockchain, fintech, disruptive marketing, from many different profiles of participants that we had sort of engaged with before, actually, in those 11 programs. So moving through that year, the team that I spoke about earlier and our great extended teams in our edtechs managed to produce another 12 online programs. Now, to me, it seems a lot because of the amount of resource that we actually have, also the intensity of building each program, which at the very smallest amount of time would be about 4 months. So apart from 2 lockdowns potentially impeding that kind of trajectory and the teams being very creative on how we get around that, we were able to continue pretty much business as usual all the way through last year and supersize our portfolio in a very small amount of time. And that is testament to obviously the teams that we have in play. But the other thing is, because we had these edtechs that were on a daily basis working with participants on an online basis, we were able to ask for help. And that was hugely critical with regards to thinking about the ways in which we could continue our transition of on-campus programs to virtual, and that's the degrees, that's the open area, the custom area. And we were able to put a very large amount of our faculty through some programs that the EdTech partners of ours had generously enabled us to do. So it was great to be able to see not only were we having to think very carefully about what we transitioned to on campus, but our faculty felt equipped and confident to do so. So today we're going to cover just a few areas, and I will attempt to do this through some of my slides, but I'm looking forward to some conversation and discussion post the slides with you and this task, just so that we can cover a little bit more of this in detail if we have the time. So looking at the way in which we started out on this pathway for online, one of the things that I always like to do when I start on anything like this is to put a framework in place. And I know that's pretty similar probably for everybody out there. My framework is this 8-step, and really it starts with the purpose, the framing of the vision. What are we trying to do? And again, that for us was very simple. We need to connect our faculty in a way that was much more accessible than we were doing just on campus, with a global cohort of practitioners. And ways in which we wanted to do that was to offer a very intensive experience that resonated with our incubated on campus quality of programs. So initially framing that was important for us. Then all the way round to understanding the impact that we'd had while we were doing this, and also how that might be amplified through both the practitioners that were coming on the program, but again also the networks, the governments, the corporates that we were wanting to work with and engage in. So I'll just take you through some of the steps that will cover some of the conversation points, and I hope you find that helpful as we do this. So looking at the metrics, look at the impact, we wanted to understand exactly what were our choices with regards to online. Now, I'd been particularly stringent in what sort of EdTech partner I was looking for, because we had earned the badge of number 2, as Vistaff had shared, a couple of times actually over the last few years. And having that number 1 UK ranking for quality of participant experience is incredibly important to us. It's a community of about 300 people that I can do this with, which are both the artists, which are the faculty at the front end developing the programs, but then it's also those colleagues that are involved in creating that great participant experience on campus. So the ladies that are preparing the rooms at the beginning of the day, or people's on-campus residents, or so on and so forth, to bear with hospitality, to the grounds and so on and so forth. How do I replicate that on campus? So it was those kind of metrics I had in mind with regards to what we wanted to do and the type of partner we wanted to find. And again, the other considerations that we were trying to really grapple with was, what kind of a pedagogical model are we looking for? Now, the one we wanted to stay true to was our on-campus model. We have got diplomas in the business school, so we're lucky enough to have some hybrid programs that were already running prior to the pandemic. But for the on-campus open executive education, I didn't really want to go too far towards simply a one-way sort of directional travel of faculty engaging with participants. The whole secret sauce that I know the entire sector has is very much around how much participant to participant engagement we have and how much participant to faculty engagement we have. And I didn't really want to lose that when we were thinking about, how we were going to kind of transition online. So looking into the area of the actual online programs, one of the elements that we wanted to also think about was we wanted to be the Oxford brand, and the Oxford brand was quite important, both obviously to the credit of the university, but also to the large majority of corporates and partnerships that already invested in what we were doing. And so it was very much about a partner who could create that global presence for us, as well as develop some very exciting, innovative experiences that were very focused on faculty contact with participants and participant group work and contact themselves. And again, the discussion element was particularly critical in these programs because we wanted to make sure that we were, again, socially constructing new knowledge across the peer groups, which would then be beneficial to the outcomes that those peer groups were thinking and seeking as they enrolled on the program. Now, having looked at what we chose, the outcomes of what have happened is that we have been able to keep our faculty very engaged in the model. So the faculty model that we have at the moment is a faculty member works with a head tutor who works with a series of tutors who then in turn work with groups of participants. So that means the faculty member can start with their vision without the weight of the amount of time it might take to converse with thousands of participants across various iterations per year. So that was a huge plus. Second, we've had 23,000 people that have come through our doors since 2017, very late 2017, and when we launched our first program. So I'm very proud because those practitioners are in addition to, of course, all of the on-campus work, all the custom work and all the accreditation work that we've done. And it's been great to see that they have been able to engage with our faculty in a way in which they may not have been able to do before. So that's been a great great outcome for us. The next is, well, what's the quality of the program like? And there are sort of, we know that 96% of expectations have been met by the community that have come on. We also know that 93% on average, this kind of bounces up, kind of down sort of per year. But we know that about 93% of participants that have started those programs have completed them. And if I was obviously having to be in charge of an online program portfolio in Oxford, that is one thing I had to make sure was absolutely going to happen, because the credibility of Oxford, the robustness of the programs and the rigor of the academic content that underpins the insights that are coming through on those programs is critical with regards to upholding the brand. Now that's where we've started. Other choices, of course, you can see to the left of the screen are, well, you can actually enter into ecosystems of programs that are actually where the EdTech is the primary brand. So you've got the edX and the Coursera and the FutureLearn, and more those EdTechs are moving into more qualitative deliveries of programs. And what I mean by that is more discussive and more participant and faculty sort of orientated interactions and interventions through the programs. So there are whole ecosystems out there that we have the choice of being able to kind of leap into and be part of a club of institutions in our sector who are able to deliver very high quality programs. For us at the moment, it's very much the 6 to 8 week, very intensive modular approach, which has assignments inside that modular approach to ensure that we are meeting the outcomes that we first set out to do. And again, this just shows a little bit about what also happens with regards to kind of the implementation of an online campus. Now, we have had a whole period of time where we had gone through a series of building new programs. We were new in the market. We had to demonstrate our worthiness and evidence our credibility in the market. And so we were looking at offering the program portfolio that we had to to where we knew we could offer it, and that was the existing market base that we had. But then as we grew more confident, we were then able to start building programs and entering into new markets so that we could be known and our faculty could be known, of course. And when I say we, I really mean our faculty, because we exist to really push their research and their insights out, but so that they could be known in ecosystems that they just couldn't reach before when we were confining ourselves to the time that we had on campus to deliver on campus programs. And what we found from that is that that's brought more people from those markets in to have a look at our other programs in our portfolio. So there's a really nice way of kind of reciprocal marketing and exposure going on in those markets, which again opens up new opportunities for income generation. And there, as I say, with their brand first kind of edtechs, you know, they've already established very large markets out there. So it really is a leap into an existing marketplace with lots of potential to explore. And then here, I just wanted to kind of share with you the excitement and the ripple of impact that we get as we continue to develop further into the programs we have. So just an example, Enville here that you see in the top right-hand corner. I've actually had the pleasure of being with Steve LaRue on an on-campus program. And Steve was a visionary with regards to thinking about how people manage their money and how we can help people adopt new health habits with regards to being able to save better and so on and so forth. And he developed the first artificial intelligence bank. And what was most interesting as well about this venture, Steve came on our FinTech program, is that he met his future chairman on that program, which again was a great story for us to capture with regards to the way in which the peer groups on the programs get to sort of, you know, spend time with each other, interact with each other, learn about each other and act as catalysts to each other's ventures. But also that kind of long-lasting relationship post the program, which is again something that I know we're all very passionate about. So implicitly, the impact that we're having is enabling new ventures to come to market, enabling new services to happen, and enabling more job creation in a time of quite difficult disruption. So this slide really shows, I guess, and obviously demonstrates the fact that I'm responsible, of course, for the sustainability of what we do. And the idea behind this slide really helps me explain to you really around the way in which I want to continue to offer very, very high quality experiences for people to recommend them. And again, that's another income stream. At the moment, we are about 10% recommendation rate across that portfolio. And that's simply because we haven't really done anything structurally or formally to enable people to recommend those programs. But we've had a great response on social media from people who are encouraging others to sort of start and complete programs, which is good to see. So again, the idea here is that we've got a very solid structure in the way in which we develop our programs. We've learned a lot from it. The cast of faculty that we would bring on these programs would be far too expensive for us to be able to develop for an on-campus program. And the fee for the on-campus program at that point would be unobtainable for a lot of people. So again, we're going against our inclusivity objective, which is the whole real underlying purpose of everything we think about on the online space. And I would say that looking at this model is one that has been crafted by the EdTech colleagues that we have and also our own in-house colleagues. And, you know, just moving to the team, you know, the challenge that we've had is bringing in a team that were able to deal with the disruption that comes with bringing in an online partner or two or three, being able to establish ways of working, establishing governance processes, enabling us to ensure the brand is protected, but also developing a culture of learning, of curiosity, and of goal setting, which means that we do progress further. And also what we've been able to do is in that team, really integrate the teams so that we're learning about technical changes, we're learning about evolutions of platforms, we're learning about how artificial intelligence can play a part, where we want it to play a part, where we want to still have that human connection, that very high touch connection that, you know, we're very proud of. And again, just making sure that our team are continuously developed as we move through the next 5 years. So there's a lot of people in our team formally. We have invested formally on campus, and this was purposeful. I didn't really want to just have no say, no governance, no oversight of the areas of development that we were bringing into open executive education. And what we've got from that is a very best-in-class team that have been brave enough to create infrastructures from the ground up, ecosystems where there were none. We were very, as I say, very unknown in this space. So we had to have people brave enough to go out there and create our reputation from a business development perspective, as well as a marketing. And again, you know, just to bring this team together with EdTech teams seamlessly has not been an easy task, but it's one the team have dealt with very succinctly. So that was, in a nutshell, some of the ways in which we've addressed some of the issues that we had on those questions. I'd be delighted to obviously invite Vistaf now to rejoin and give his thoughts on that presentation.
Fascinating talk, Caroline, and you've really done a wonderful job at showing us how you've integrated, I'd say, EdTech into the faculty expertise. So let me start out with a very simple question, although it might lead to a lot of others. You have the faculty on one hand, which you've explained very carefully, drove the entire process. What's the feedback loop from all the people that you have engaged in that large chart you showed to bring it back to in sort of increasing or enhancing the experience the second time the course is taught?
Great question. So what we do is we are evaluating the program the moment it's out the gate. So of course, we've spent a lot of time developing the pedagogical rollout and design of the program, and we've been able to innovate as we've gone on there simply by the way in which our faculty have introduced new things. The feedback loop is very much concerned with client-centric, with delivery, and with obviously faculty insight with regards to the way in which they felt the program has been received. Now, the way in which faculty gather that insight is through their tutor team. So the tutor teams keep very close to participants, so therefore we have qualitative conversations happening as well as quantitative data where people are giving us their feedback after the first we call it an iteration, but it's the first program that's been delivered in the run since launch.
So a second question that has come from someone from the audience is, what are the areas that you're the most excited about for the future?
I think that's a great question. I think for me, it's reaching more people from around the world, more practitioners in, I guess, roles that don't lend themselves necessarily straight to some of the executive education practitioners that we've seen. So what I mean by that is we want to work with a lot of foundations who can open up opportunities for those practitioners in areas like human trafficking, in sort of wildlife preservation, and so on and so on, climate change, that just can't get the opportunity to come to Oxford. And what we want to do is also think about how we evolve our 6 to 8 week programs. So how much shorter can we evolve those programs to allow people to come on at better price points for them, but also gather the amount of information they require in order to be able to have succinct conversations post the program without going through a 6 to 8 week experience. So almost like a highlights program. So those are, I think, the further engagement with professionals that we want to be able to bring into our community and help. And the other is the different types of formats that we might be able to experiment with. And I think curiosity and experimentation are sort of, partners. And that's something that really drives us forwards with the interest. The third thing finally is collaboration. How are we working with our peers across the sector. Across the sector, we can tackle challenges in a complementary way. And I just don't see the competitive nature of that. We have a lot to say together, and I think we can really address some great challenges.
So one of the audience has asked a very open-ended question, so I'm going to leave it to you as to how you want to answer it. But they're really talking about your EdTech partners and whether you could tell them a little bit more about your EdTech partners.
No problem at all. So very publicly, we are working with Get Smarter, who are an edtech based in South Africa, and with Esme Learning, who are headquartered in the US, but they have a UK office right now. And the partners themselves are as entrepreneurial as we are. Get Smarter have, as an institution, have a longer track record than Esme. Esme are a startup, but they have a large number of professionals that have been in the industry for a long time. So each of these relationships, have had their challenges, but they've also had fantastic, sides to them for us to be able to gain a lot of value from both the insights that each of these partners have and the ways in which we want to innovate the pedagogical element of the programs. And they're all best in class. So the great thing about this is you're talking to a director, you're talking to a producer, you're talking to somebody who is, come from one of the big four marketing institutions who's now working for sort of the ed techs that we're working with. So we're learning a lot and they're learning a lot because, again, we're able to show them our world and the way in which our world operates. And I guess the final thing really about the ed techs, because I could go on a lot actually, is the fact that the cultures, as I alluded to earlier, are very aligned. And so you've got a lot of people who are pulling in the same direction as you, which is making the whole thing much more pleasant. And you're able to have both the team that's working on the pedagogical element, but you're also able to have the team that's working on that recruitment element. And right now, thanks to our partners, we reach 174 countries across the world. So that's a great testament to perhaps jumping into some of these partnerships.
Fascinating, Carolyn, and thank you very much. That was a very comprehensive and a good start to our track. Thanks a lot.